Welcome back to another insightful episode of Me and My Health Stuff. I'm your host, Anthony Hartcher. I'm a clinical nutritionist and lifestyle medicine specialist. The purpose of this podcast is to enhance and enlighten your well-being. And today, I have the privilege of doing that for you. And we're going to be talking about how to hack intermittent fasting. Yes, hacks are all the rage. Everyone wants to hack their longevity, hence why they're doing intermittent fasting. And now I'm sharing some hacks with you on how to hack intermittent fasting. So let me define intermittent fasting for those that haven't seen the prior episode that I did on intermittent fasting. I've actually done a couple prior episodes, but if you want to get up to speed quickly, intermittent fasting is essentially pulsing fasting. So it's doing a fast and then going back to regular eating, doing a fast, going back to regular eating. That's intermittent fasting. What people associate with intermittent fasting is time-restricted feeding. So the time-restricted feeding is the common one. It's the most popular one. It's the trendy one. It's the fad one at the moment. And that's the 16 and 8. But that's really defined as time-restricted feeding because you're only eating within a certain time window. And the rest is that you're resting your digestive system. You're not loading it up with food. So that's what intermittent fasting is just pulsing fasting. And it's a really good way to do anything with the human body because in terms of how we work best with pulsing. We don't work best with continuous approach to something. What we like is the variation. And that's how our body is designed to work with variation. Because if you think about our surroundings, they're constantly varying. They're not constant. They're never a constant. And so having a consistent diet is very much not that sort of way in which the body's going to ultimately respond well to. So what you'll find is when you start intermittent fasting or time restricted feeding, you'll get an initial benefit. You'll see some gains and you think, oh, this is worth continuing. But then the gains will plateau. And this is why the pulsing effect can be really helpful, is to break the plateau, is to allow the body to get stressed and then find a new set point. And that's how we can continue to remain on our trajectory towards our optimal body weight. So pulsing is what I suggest. Pulsing when you're like with intermittent fasting is the best way. So sort of going from restricted eating or restricted time windows of eating to then going back to regular and allowing the body for that adjustment and finding itself again. And you can just shake it a bit, nudge it a bit, and then it will start to adjust and accordingly. And then you'll find that you'll get new results. And so I find this pulsing effect is a really good way of doing it as opposed to continuously doing it because your body gets used to it. It adapts to it and it adapts in a way that it finds its set point and it's happy. It's not going to do anything more for you. But if you really want it to nudge it at another level, then you need to pulse it or change it up, mix it up in order to get past that set point, in order to break that set point. So I really suggest you pulse it in terms of varying it up. Don't keep it consistent. So even your time restricted feeding windows, so if you're doing 16 and 8, it doesn't have to be every day 16 and 8 religiously. You don't need to do that. You can do 14. You can like 14 and 10, for example. So a 14-hour fast and a 10-hour eating window versus the 16 and 8, which is a 16-hour fast, 8-hour eating window. So you can only eat within the 8-hour eating window. When you're doing a 14 and 10, you only eat within the 10-hour eating window. And so if you vary this anywhere between 12 and 12 and 16 and 8, you'll get results. And it's just sort of pulsing that and finding that sort of what's working for you and then mixing it up again, throwing in a variable, shocking the body. So we really want to not get really complacent because when we do with our health, our body just finds a nice, set point. Mind you, if you're happy with that set point, then just continue doing what you're doing, right? It's if you're not happy with that set point and you want to take it to another level, then you've got to mix something up. You've got to add in another variable. So I'm going to share other ways in which you can further work with this and make it easier to not give in that window that you're not supposed to eat within. So, because often you might get cravings within that window and you're thinking, oh, I'm really hungry, and you can't get your mind off the food, and the food's becoming more and more tempting. And then you just give in and you think, oh, I'm a failure, but you're not. It's just feedback that you need to change things around to help you, to support you, so that you don't get those hunger signals. And that really requires you eating foods that are going to tie you over for longer. So it's really like, so low GI sort of foods, which is, really fibrous foods, like high fiber content, that will take longer or spend longer in your digestive tract. And that's essentially how these drugs work around helping people lose weight, is that they slow down the rate of movement within the digestive tract. So the body just is sending signals back to the brain saying, yeah, you're satisfied, there's enough down there. And so you can do this with fiber. So you don't need to take the drug. You can essentially do this with increasing your fiber intake. So low GI is high fiber content. So we certainly want to be increasing our fiber content when we're eating. Also our fat content. So fat, it gives us great satiation. So we feel really satisfied with a high fat content meal. So a high fat content meal will take you for longer. And same with protein. Protein takes longer to digest. So protein, fat, and fiber are your friends in terms of the content of food you want to eat to sustain you for longer periods without feeling hungry. Now, what might get in the way of that is blue light, artificial blue light, non-native EMFs, which come from working indoors. So these non-native EMFs are confusing the body. They're sending signals to the body. Like this is where my clients typically tell me they get really hungry, is like they say, well, I've had dinner, 7 p.m., I've had dinner, and now I'm going to fast to 11 a.m. the next day, right? They've finished eating at 7 p.m., they're going to fast 16 hours to 11 a.m. the next day. But they sit down, watch the television, get lots of exposure to these non-native EMFs, these blue lights, it's hitting them, and it's telling their body that it's the middle of the day. It's saying, hey, body, it's the middle of the day because there's lots of blue light coming in your photoreceptors in your retina. And these signals are then communicating to other functions within the body to say, it's the middle of the day. What do we do during the middle of the day? Well, during the middle of the day, we need to gather food. We need to get food. Like, this is our primitive wiring. And so our body is then like releasing cortisol, for example, manufacturing cortisol. And in actual fact, at night, we want cortisol to drop down because cortisol results in wakefulness. It results in go get ya. I'm going to go get that goal. I'm going to get that prey. I'm going to run away from that predator. That's what cortisol does for us. The other thing it also sends a signal to our body is let's increase insulin. Increase insulin because we're going to be eating during the day, and insulin's required to take the energy into cells. And so your body's secreting insulin, it's secreting cortisol, it's getting ready to eat essentially to get you through the day. But it's nighttime and you're thinking, I just want to relax and I want to maintain my fasting window, but I feel hungry. And it's because of the blue light. So what I suggest you do in the evening is really dim down your lighting. If you can, replace your LEDs with incandescent light bulbs, because the incandescent light bulbs have a greater light spectrum and they have some of the infrared. And the infrared really works well for us in terms of winding us down in the evening, because essentially as the sun's setting, we're getting less blue light, right? And more sort of the red orange light. And we're still getting the infrared light. So the infrared light is really good for our cellular rejuvenation and helping our body to repair and rebuild. And so we want that to happen, during the nighttime. And it's going to help initiate, like with lower light, less blue light in our photoreceptors, going into our photoreceptors of our retina. What it does is tell the body to start doing nighttime things, and the body then starts to secrete melatonin. And so melatonin is sent out by the pineal gland, and it goes out to the cells of the body, and it initiates those cells to start going into night mode. Like sometimes our phone will go into night mode. And I actually suggest you put your phone onto night mode, because by putting it onto night mode, it silences the phone and you don't get disturbed from it. And it sort of shuts off the screen. It just goes into a dark screen. So put your phone onto night mode, like your cells are going into night mode when they see darkness. So we want our cells seeing darkness through less light exposure and less blue light in particular. And that way our body will start doing nighttime functions. Nighttime functions is to allow cortisol to drop, allow melatonin to increase. And with melatonin increasing, we start to feel sedated. We start to feel tired. And that will enable us to have a good night's sleep, and we won't get as hungry in the evening. It's that blue light exposure in the evening, coupled with, could be boredom, or it could be your inability to wind down from the day. So the inability to wind down from the day, you've got elevated cortisol, and it might not be coming from the blue light. You might have a dark room, but you haven't wound down. You're all wounded up. You're all annoyed with that colleague at work, or you're frustrated that the project just didn't meet its deadline, and you're worried about the consequences of the project not meeting the deadline and the repercussions of that. So what we want to be able to do in the evening is have a practice where we're dimming the lights plus doing something to calm the nervous system. So this is where we want to enable relaxing music to you. So what relaxes you? Play that music in the evening. Dim the lights. Play that music. What else do you find relaxing? Is it a breathing exercise? Is it a meditation experience? Is it some stretching? Is it like, so for me, I have a shower. Sometimes, probably in the summer, I don't shower as much because I go for an ocean swim in the afternoon. But in the winter, you might want to shower and have a hot shower, because that will help with sleep. It will also warm up the muscles. Then you can stretch the muscles. And so this is a really good evening routine. In essence, you're telling the muscles that it's time to relax. You don't need to be tense anymore. And when the muscles relax, they're telling the brain that everything's okay. You're not trying to get away from a tiger. So it calms the mind by relaxing the muscles. So do some rolling, foam rollers. Get on the foam roller, roll out on the foam roller, stretch the muscles, play that music, nice dark environment. You'll find your body winding down. You'll find the cortisol dropping. You'll find the melatonin increasing. And with that nice harmonious balance happening between those two hormones, what you'll find is that you won't get the hunger sensations. The other one I mentioned was boredom. So if you're bored in the evening, we have this intrinsic drive to have meaning, to live a purposeful life. And if we're feeling that we aren't satisfying that meaning for life or having that purpose, and we depurpose ourselves, we then, our dopamine will start to drop. And that's driving us to find purpose, to get up and go. And then we want dopamine, right? We want to seek dopamine when it's dropping. And so what will happen in the evening is your dopamine drops. Now, what typically happens is we want to pick up our dopamine, and what we'll go for is sweet things, right? So those sweet, high calorific, high GI, it just picks us up. And it allows that dopamine rush to come back. But the thing is, then it drops off again. Then we need more to pick us up. So in order to not allow that dopamine to drop in the evening, what you might want to do, rather than just be bored and watch TV, do something that's meaningful to you, something that you derive meaning from, something of value to you. So for me, I read books in areas that I love reading. I explore science and I dig deeper into science in the evening, and it keeps me on purpose, and my dopamine's not dropping, and it's not too stimulating. I don't need blue lights. I have, minimal lighting, and the lighting's not all around me. It's on the page that I'm reading. So I'm not taking up too much light into my photoreceptors, not stimulating that release of cortisol or insulin that I mentioned earlier. So reading material that really gives you purpose, that you're really interested in, or reading a novel. It could be a novel that you really just sort of you escape, you go into another world, it relaxes your body, your nervous system calms down, and so that will allow you to wind down, as opposed to what we don't want is that overstimulus around, if we're continually doing work, continually looking at blue screens, we're continually stimulating the mind, and it's like having our phone, if it's not on night mode, we're constantly getting messages come through, and it's stimulus. An alarm goes off, and our brain lights up, and it's, oh, what's that message? Ah, surprise, surprise! This is going to be a great dopamine hit. Is it this boy that I've been chasing that he's finally texts me back, or is it the girl that I've been chasing finally texts me back? Oh, it could be that message. I better check it out. And so this sort of anticipation, and this is what dopamine rises in the anticipation of something that you want, right? So it actually is higher than, when you open the text, then the dopamine drops, right? So it's that anticipation. It's like the lead up to Christmas as a kid, or lead up to a birthday as a kid. The dopamine surging in the lead up, and then it drops off. And hence why sometimes we feel that it was more exciting in the lead up as opposed to in the opening or the revealing of what it is, because we anticipate something much greater. We sort of live in that fantasy. Well, it's what drives us. Ultimately, it's hardwired within us to do that, so that we actually get that prey. So we really excited about getting the prey, and then it doesn't taste as good. It's a bit tough, it's a bit wild, it's a bit lean. So anyway, I'm going a bit off track here. So doing something meaningful, purposeful to you in the evening. It could be having a conversation with your partner, if that's of really high value to you, and that really gives you meaning and purpose, and you feel connected. And so that won't then result in this dopamine drop where you think, oh, I need sugar, I need chocolate, I need something sweet to lift my spirits. If you do something meaningful, then you won't have that drop. So that can be really helpful in the evening in order to make sure you sustain that fast from when you stop eating in the evening. Because I have a lot of clients that tell me I keep getting hungry. The other hack that I share with my clients is after the meal, because we're wired to, once we start eating, we're wired to keep eating, just to, if there's food, eat as much as you can, because you don't know when the next bit of food will be available, right? So we are a bit hardwired to want more of what we've just had. And so that's natural. So don't think that, oh, I'm a seconds person, I'm a third person, I'm a fourth person, there's something wrong with me. That's how we're hardwired. So what you want to do is, have a smaller plate, eat that. And then once you've finished eating that, put your plate away. Some people brush their teeth. And then what's really helpful is stepping outside. So when we get outside, this is really good for the body, because we're essentially getting outdoors. We're away from the non-native EMFs, and our body can harmonize. Our body can get into sync and think, okay, there's food there, I should digest that. And you're breathing fresh air, you're out in nature, it's time to, the nervous system can relax. It's not being exposed and bombarded by non-native EMFs, such as from phones, from televisions, Wi-Fi, and all these sort of things. It's not getting smashed from, LED lights. And so it's really helpful to get outside. And outside, obviously, it's natural lighting. And so they've got the sun setting, your eyes are picking up the sun dropping. There's less intensity in the sun. It picks that up. It then starts to tell the body to do nighttime functions. And so the body then gets into a nighttime routine. The thing that's really good about getting outside is that we can also get some additional steps. So by walking around the block, we get some additional steps in the day. So, and I don't want you to do vigorous walking in the evening after dinner. I want you to do really low intensity, because if we start to elevate our heart rate, then we delay the ability for us to fall asleep. So we want to do low intensity exercise in the evening, walk with your partner, have a chat about your day, unwind, walk around some trees, observe some birds, observe nature, start connecting to the present. And, you can, it is good to unwind your day by talking through it. So even if you aren't with your partner, if you're by yourself, you want to just sort of reflect on your day, what went well, what didn't go so well, how can you improve those things that didn't go so well? What do you want to focus? What are your priorities for tomorrow? So this is sort of allowing the brain to close files. It's really important. We call it the Zingarnik effect of closing things, putting closure to things, because Zingarnik found, he was a Russian psychologist, he found in his experimentation that in order to remember things, we want to keep files open because they just keep ruminating in our brain. And so what we want to do is the reverse of what he found. We actually want to close the folders of our brain, put closure to events, put closure to work, so that we can then allow us to just really get very present and allow us to just, I guess, unwind into the evening. And when we close those files, we don't have things like my to-do list constantly circulating around that will keep you awake. It will keep that arousal, will keep that stimulus going. If we're constantly thinking of what we didn't do and what didn't go quite so well, we need to reflect on that, close that, move on, and allow the new day, new you every day. So I just did a previous recording on celebrating each day, every day, as opposed to anniversaries, birthdays, and all those sort of things, because in essence, we should celebrate every day of life. So that's another podcast recording that was prior to this one. You can listen to that one. It was a really good one in terms of celebrating each day. It's a new day. It's a new you. It's a new chance for you to transform and evolve as you and the best version of you. So do that reflection, that walking around the block, calming down, getting extra steps. And when we're out in nature, we are actually getting, we're also getting energy from nature. And so we need less energy from food. And this leads into my next part of the discussion, is only 1/3 of our energy requirements come from food. 1/3. And you're probably thinking, oh, what the hell is that other 2/3? And that's what I'll share with you now. 1/3 comes from food. Now, what's happening in today's world, because we live indoors under artificial lights and we're not moving as much and we're just stationary, we require, or we're seeking, more energy from food because we're not getting connected to the other sources of energy which our body can energize from, right? So we also get energy from grounding with the earth. So this is our bare feet on the ground, or us being in nature. So us being like walking in nature, walking in the green space, they call it. So walking through the forest bathing, or it could be blue space or blue room, and that's getting into natural body waters such as lakes and rivers, oceans. We get energy from being in these spaces. So do more green spaces, more blue spaces whilst you're fasting, and you'll find that you remain energized and won't have that propensity to just be constantly hungry. You will satisfy your energy needs through green and blue bathing. So that's walking bare feet on the ground on the beach, or walking barefoot on the ground in the park, getting exposure to light, natural light. And what that does is that energizes us in other ways other than eating food, right? So that's the 2/3, is grounding, magnetism is what we refer to it as, bare feet on the ground on planet Earth, and also getting natural sunlight. So natural sunlight, bare feet on the ground, grounded sunlight is the 2/3 of energy that we can utilize, and we require less of the food source. So during your fast, what you want to do is do more green room and blue room exposure. Increase it. Find ways to do that. So it might require doing a walk and talk with a friend rather than sitting in a cafe under blue lights and just stationary. We also generate current or electricity when we move our muscles. So they're piezoelectric, and so the more we move, the more energy we create as well. We generate electricity. So it's like if you can do a walk and talk meeting outdoors in natural light, particularly in nature, then you're having a double, triple effect on your body in terms of health, good health compounding. And this is all going to help with your longevity. So it's really important that we look at other ways to energize our body other than eating food. And that requires being outdoors more often, more frequent. So how can you, the question I'm going to ask you is, how can you spend more time outdoors in nature or in that blue room, which is those natural water bodies such as lakes, rivers, and oceans? How can you spend more time in that space or in the green space? Because then you'll require less of your energy needs from food, or you'll keep your energy requirements from food to a third and it not being 2/3 or 3/3, because you're not getting out, you're not moving your body, you're not in green spaces and you're not in blue spaces. So all your energy comes from food. And because you're not outdoors, your body's not in the circadian rhythm, it's not in the natural cycle, and it's confused. And so it's producing too much insulin from the blue light, which is pushing all your energy from food into fat stores. This is part of the reason why we're getting so fat as a society, because we're indoors, not moving our bodies, requiring too much energy from food, which our body is then storing because of the insulin resistance we're creating because of the blue light exposure. So I work all day without any light. I have natural light. I'm fortunate I have natural light coming in. Yes, I'm indoors, but I step out regularly during the day to get my outdoor exposure. I face natural light as much as possible, but we do lose some of the light spectrum through the window. So I step outside to eat my food, to eat lunch. And when you're eating outside, eating in green spaces, outdoor spaces, you'll be satisfied quicker and you're less likely to want to scavenge for more food. So when you can, eat outside, enjoy time in nature. In between meetings, step outside, go for a walk, unwind, reflect, allow that reflection time. It's in the pause, it's in the space that we actually find creative solutions to problems. So allow more space in your day. Don't crowd your day with activity, because what you'll do is just keep driving that sympathetic nervous system, keep pushing, elevating cortisol. And what we do when we're in that fight or flight mode or that busy mode, we really just come up with solutions that we know that work, but they might not be the most efficient or most productive way of solving that problem. We need to create space in order to access new neural pathways. When we're in our fight, flight, or mode, we're in black and white mode. We're very much wanting to force solutions, and we don't light up innovative pathways. We're not accessing these neurons that could give us the ultimate solution. We just fire the neurons and hardwired firing to the neurons that we know that will get us an outcome quickly. It's that short-term gratification. And so, and the more we fire those neurons and wire those links, the more we keep doing those habits, and then they become habits, and we just keep solving the problem the same way and then expecting a different outcome or expecting a better outcome, but we keep doing the same thing. And that's really the definition of insanity. So create some space in your day so that you can reflect, better manage that cortisol level, be outside when you're reflecting, allow your body to get in sync with the night-day cycle and what portion of the day it is, so the body knows what to do at that portion of the day or at that time of the day. So in essence, what I'm saying in terms of how to hack this intermittent fasting, this fasting period that you're wanting to maintain, it really is doing things of priority, things of importance to you, things of value to you. When you're doing lower value items, you'll be bored and you'll seek meaning. You'll feel unfulfilled, and your dopamine will drop. And then you'll go for what you know that lifts your dopamine, which is typically sweets, sugar, fat, all those cakes and biscuits, lollies, just to get that pickup in dopamine, but you don't need that pickup if you are continually doing things and living by priority, like doing things of value, living by priority. You won't have those real huge dopamine drops and feeling depurposed and unfulfilled. So do things all the time that are fulfilling to you, that are high value to you, and you will maintain a good dopamine level. And what I also suggest is in the evening to find a nighttime routine that allows the body to wind down and minimize your exposure to non-native EMFs, such as from your computers, your phones, and your lights, your LED lights. Minimize that exposure. Your body will adjust to what it needs to do at nighttime, which is not to eat food. We're not designed to eat food at night. The only reason we eat food at night is we fool our body to think it is the middle of the day by having blue lights on full bore in the evening and constant flashes from the screens and all that sort of stuff. It's stimulus to our body. And our body's thinking, oh, it's the middle of the day. Let's get active. Let's find food. Let's forage for food. Let's eat food. But no, we're not designed to do that at nightfall. And so if you allow night to fall in your household, you will find that your body unwinds. You'll find that you feel relaxed. You'll find that you're not hungry, because we aren't designed to eat food after dusk. So do these sort of activities in terms of unwinding, reducing your light exposure, finding ways to stay fulfilled in the evening by doing high value activities. If it works for you, step outside, get some steps, reflect, unwind with your partner, or you could do it by yourself in solitude. But just find ways in which you can reduce that cortisol, have exposure to natural lighting, and so that your photoreceptors in your retina actually see less light, less blue light in particular. And then they start sending signals to the body, to the pineal gland, to start producing melatonin, to then start putting the cells to sleep. So I really want you to do these sort of hacks. And during the day, in order to maintain your fast during the day, spend as much time as you can outdoors, because you'll gather energy from other sources other than needing it from food. So you'll be energized from natural sunlight, and you'll get energized from having your bare feet on the ground. So walk in the park barefoot when you've got breaks between meetings, or go for a walk with your colleague and let them know that what you're doing, and get them on the program and enlighten their well-being by sharing with them what you're learning on the Me and My Health Up podcast, and do it together. Do it with work colleagues. Let's revolutionize the way in which the world does health, and the way in which the world can proactively do health. And it results in this ripple effect of you sharing the information and knowledge that you're learning from this podcast. So I really appreciate your ears and you dialing into each episode. I really love your listening. It inspires me to learn more content so I can share it with you. Please share it with others that could benefit. And please join the Me and My Health Up Club via the Patreon link. So if you go into the show notes, go down to support the show in the show notes. It will link you to my Patreon page, and you can join the group coaching. So I'm running group coaching now in order to help people to do health well during this, I guess, cost of living crisis, or these rising costs of living that people are looking to cut expenditure in certain areas. I don't want you to cut out health. I want you to continue health. So I've started group coaching, group support, group education to keep people empowered in their health and well-being so that they can maintain health in the most cost-effective way. And everything I've shared with you today in this episode, or tonight, whenever you're listening to it, I'm recording this during the day, is of very low cost, right? It costs nothing to jump into lakes, rivers, or oceans. It costs nothing to walk in the sun. It costs nothing to walk in a park barefoot. So these sort of solutions I've shared with you are really low cost, and they're ways in which you can continue to support your wellness goals, continue to stay on track to achieve your wellness goals. So stay on track, join a great community of like-minded people, join the Me and My Health Up Club. It is the Me and My Health Up Club Plus membership that will entitle you to group coaching, monthly webinars or monthly masterclasses is probably a better term, with Q&A and coaching provided. We also stay connected via Discord, and so I can answer any challenges you have during the times in which we're not connecting online. I can continue that connection, that relationship, and that support via Discord. So join it. It's less than $1 a day to support your health. So really affordable way to continue your health in 2024. Love you to join. Our first masterclass is on the 25th of February, but I'm running them every month. And by the time this episode drops, it's already going to be past the 25th of February. But the great thing is about the Patreon membership is that you can access all past recordings. So no matter when you join, you have access to the history and obviously everything that's coming forward to you. There's weekly content. There's so much valuable information, and it's absolute bargain at $1 or less than $1 a day. I'd love you to join the group, join the community, and continue to health up. Thank you for listening. Podcast disclaimer. This podcast and any information, advice, opinions, or statements within it do not constitute medical, healthcare, or professional advice and are provided for general information purposes only. All care is taken in the preparation of the information in this podcast. Connected Wellness Proprietary Limited, operating under the brand me&my Health Up, does not make any representations or give any warranties about its accuracy, reliability, completeness, or suitability for any particular purpose. This podcast and any information, advice, opinions, or statements within it are not to be used as a substitute for professional, medical, psychological, psychiatric, or any other mental health care or healthcare in general. me&my Health Up recommends you seek the advice of a doctor or qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition. Inform your doctor of any changes that you may to your lifestyle and discuss these with your doctor. Do not disregard medical advice or delay visiting a medical professional because of something you hear in this podcast. This podcast has been carefully prepared on the basis of current information. Changes in circumstances after publication may affect the accuracy of this information. To the maximum extent permitted by the law, me&my Health Up disclaims any such representations or warranties to the completeness, accuracy, merchantability, or fitness for purpose of this podcast and will not be liable for any expenses, losses, damages incurred, indirect or consequential damages or costs that may be incurred as a result of the information being inaccurate or incomplete in any way and for any reason. No part of this podcast can be reproduced, redistributed, published, copied, or duplicated in a form without prior permission of me&my Health Up.